So I want to look at a second type of situation where you're going to need to solve radical equations. And what you'll notice is the difference in these problems that I'm calling type 2 is there are actually two radicals. So that's the difference between the type 2 and the type 1. The type 1 only had one radical. This type 2 I'm going to show you has two radicals. These are going to be your notes. The expectation is that you are writing them down. You are going to need to take a picture of your work and turn it into me. So let's start by writing this down. The first thing you need to do is make sure your radicals are on different sides of the equal sign. This one is already like that. You might see some problems that are different and you'll need to move them. We will talk about what those are going to look like when we get to them. All right, so the process for solving here is a little bit different than type 1. So after you make sure the radicals are on separate sides of the equal sign, we are going to eliminate the radical. You're going to do it the same way you did for type 1 problems. If you have a square root, you would square both sides. If you have a cube root, you will cube both sides. So we have a cube root. So we are going to cube both sides of the radical. When I do this on the left side, all it's going to do is eliminate the radical. So I will be left with 2x plus 2. And I have my equal sign. Now notice that this 4 is not in the radical. We actually need to cube that 4. So I'm just going to write it right there and cube it because I want to remember to do that. My x plus 1 can come out of the radical. And I'm just going to put it in parentheses just like this. So again, the reason why we need to cube the 4 is because it was not in the radical. So we really have to cube it. And when you cube 4, you get 64. So what we're going to have here is 2x plus 2 equals, this will become 64. Then we have x plus 1. So this is a multi-step equation, and we are just going to solve it. We're going to solve for x. So I need to distribute my 64. So on the left, I still have 2x plus 2. I still have my equal sign. 64 times x is 64x. I've got my plus, and 64 times 1 is 64. I'm going to move my x's to the left and my integers to the right. So I'll start by just moving the 2. A minus 2 on both sides. Notice I did the minus 2 under the 64 because it doesn't have an x. They're like terms. So I've got 2x equals 64x plus 64 minus 2 is 62. Let's move this 64x to the other side. 2 minus 64x is negative 62x. These guys cancel out, and I had the 62 I can bring down. I'm almost done. I've almost got x to itself. Negative 62x means negative 62 times x. So to do the inverse or opposite, I will divide both sides by negative 62. On the left, I'm left with x, and 62 divided by negative 62 is negative 1. Yay, I did it, but I need to finish up and check for extraneous solutions. So that means I need to sub -1 into the original equation wherever there's an x. So I'm going to rewrite the original equation, but where there's an x, I'm going to put in -1. So if you start here and look up at the top, you'll see I used the original equation subbed in -1 for x. We want to make sure the left side matches the right, that they're the same. So let's simplify what's in the radical. 2 times -1 is -2 plus 2. -2 plus 2 is 0. So I've got the cube root of 0. On this side, I've got 4 times the cube root. -1 plus 1 is also 0. So are these sides equal? Well, when I put this in my calculator, I actually get 0. And when I put this in my calculator, I also get 0. So yay, it's a match. That means that x equals -1 is a solution.